All right, guys, welcome back. Another episode of Daily Fantasy Knockout. UFC 207 going down this Friday. Ronda Rousey versus Amanda Nunes. I'm your host, Drew, as always, with my co-host, Josh. A little different setting for both of us. It's Christmas time, so it's been kind of tough for us to get rolling here. So sorry about the late show, but we're here, and we're going to run through things. Josh, what's going on, man? How was your holiday?
I'm good. Actually, I have like a nice looking background in my dad's office with all these books and stuff. That's what I aspire to have as my background one day, is nice library of books. So I'm excited for 207. Really excited to see how Rousey looks. I think she's her mental state is a giant question mark going into this fight. How she performs, I think, is going to be really, really interesting. So I can't wait.
All right, hey guys, we're going to dive right in. First fight of the evening we're going to talk about is... Do you have it at Price and Thatch? No, they're not fighting, are they?
No, Means and Oliveira's first one.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm looking at a different website. All right, so Alex Oliveira versus Tim Means. Even money fight. I think I'm going to favor Oliveira in this fight based on the fact that Tim Means is, likes to fight in the clinch, likes to get up close, make things dirty in the pocket. He's, as Josh described, he's murderous inside with his clinch game, with hard knees to the body. Really uses his long frame to, slam home those knees into his opponents. His standing elbows are vicious, and he's very, very patient, which is one thing we noticed. He overwhelms his foe, but he doesn't overextend, doesn't overexhaust himself. He waits for that time and space to develop. But I think that plays right into Oliveira's game here. And he's very strong in the clinch as well. Really good head position, very good defensively with wrist control, especially against Muntasiri in the most recent fight. He as well uses his length and his size to hammer home knees to the body, uppercuts, and he looks to reverse and separate quite a bit. So what I'm saying here is this is probably why it's an even money fight, because they kind of match up well. I don't think either side has a drastic advantage, but Oliveira is an excellent athlete. He's a very, very big 170. And aside from his fight with Donald Cerrone, which he got stormed, he has put together quite a set of wins, a nice winning streak. I think it was a 4-fight win streak before Cerrone and 3 since then. So looking at the Vegas odds, they're both at -115, and DraftKings pricing, Oliveira comes in at 7,800 and Means at 8,400. So for me, I don't see much finish potential from either of these guys, so I'm going to side with Oliveira at 7,800 because you get the dog pricing, but it's an even matchup, and I really think Oliveira is going to win this fight. So, do you disagree with that? Agree? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Oliveira for the price. I think that, like you said, it's a pretty even matchup. So definitely take that. I could see a finish here. Both these guys are finishers, or at least Oliveira hasn't finished everyone that he's fought, but he's got some finishes against like Peter Hallman. He finished Will Brooks recently, KJ Nunes. So he's got some finishes on his record, and he's literally strong in the clinch, like we talked about. So I could see a finish here, but so I think that makes me like want to play this in GBPs, and I consider Oliveira in cash at 7,800 as a plus underdog, but that Tim Means like finishing ability I think might scare me off that a little bit. So I think it's a GBP one. Do you? I guess for the price we kind of favor Oliveira. We're going to be playing him a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I favor him because it's a close fight, and the price, I mean, when you want to pay up for some of these guys that we're going to talk about, Oliveira, just that price tag is so juicy. And but maybe a cash game play, but yeah, I'd agree. Tim Means' finishing ability is nerve-wracking, so yeah, GPP for him, I guess. You could play him in cash. I'm torn on this fight, guys, if you can't tell.
It's cool. I mean, yeah, I think we covered the angles here.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little quiet, but I think I can hear you okay.
All right, cool. Let's move on to the next fight of the evening. According to our sheet, it's Brandon Thatch versus Nico Price.
Yeah, so Thatch is like the former top prospect who had some nice like first round finishes. He came into the UFC, then had a good performance against Benson Henderson before eventually losing in the fourth round of a main event fight, and then since then he's lost and looked pretty bad. I think he got finished in the first round by Gunnar Nelson, and then he got finished in the third round by CR Bahadurzada and looked really, really like he gassed really badly in that fight. He wasn't as aggressive as he had been previously, like on the regional circuit and in his first couple of UFC wins. So it's kind of hard to know like where he's at. He trains at Elevation, which is a good camp. So I guess we'll see how he does here. He's got a winnable fight against Nico Price, UFC newcomer who's very, very aggressive, like Thatch used to be. So I think a finish is pretty likely in this one, but it's kind of hard to know like where Thatch is at. I think skill-wise he should have the advantage. Price doesn't really have much defense to speak of at all, while Thatch, when he's at his best, can throw heat from either stance. He's nasty in the clinch with knees, and he's got pretty like vicious ground and pound, pretty solid takedown defense when he's at his best. But lately, the takedown defense has been the issue, and the grappling defense has been another problem for him. But I don't think that's really Price's wheelhouse. Price, I think, is just, I mean, he hasn't fought the level of competition that Thatch has. This is a big step up in like physical ability as well as skill for Price. So I'm going to go with Thatch here, but I think this deserves play on both sides because Thatch could just have fallen off a cliff. He was gassing badly against Bahadurzada in their fight. Gave up takedowns as the fight wore on. He gave takedowns up pretty easily, and then Bahadurzada got like a mercy submission to finish him off, like an arm triangle that Thatch barely tried to defend. And when Thatch is on his back, like Bahadurzada was in his guard, and it was just like Thatch had no answer. Bahadurzada was just like laying into him with ground and pound from the guard, and that's not a good look. But again, I don't think Price is at that level. So
if you had to guess the odds.
Well, I'm looking at him. So
okay. Well, my site has Thatch at -180, Price at +150, and the pricing Thatch comes in at 9,000 and Price is 7,200. So we're going to pay up for that finish. You think Thatch finishes here?
I think Price makes a great GBP play for being like probably I think the cheapest dude on the card, and he's not a giant underdog. Thatch, I think the line has moved. I think Thatch was a heavier favorite, but I think the line has moved toward Price. So maybe that makes Price an even more attractive option. But yeah, I think this is one you want to play on both sides. I don't know that I'll have a ton of exposure to Thatch. I'll have shares of him GBPs for sure, but his decline is alarming. It makes me not really want to play him, especially when he's the most expensive guy on the card. So
cool.
I think he's got finished. Yeah.
I mean to cut you off. Sorry, I was just agreeing.
No, you're good. That's pretty much it. You got anything to add?
No. Let's go to our next fight, middleweight affair: Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Marvin Vettori. I'm all in on Carlos Jr. in this one. Hopefully, he doesn't burn me. And here's why: I just think he has too many tools against Vettori. Vettori is known for his heavy wrestling onslaught. He wants to take the fight to the ground. He's an Italian prospect. He's 23 years old, I believe. He's very, very athletic. He most recently fought Uda, right?
Yeah.
I think he just fought Uda in his most recent fight. Yeah, he likes to fight on the ground. He's a solid ground and pound grappler. He submitted Arayu, I don't know how to say it, Araujo, who is a BJJ black belt with his guillotine. He's got a really active ground and pound. But I just think Carlos Jr. is a bad matchup for him. And I like the power. I give the power edge to Carlos Jr. I give him the edge on the feet as well. And he's an elite level BJJ fighter as well. But one of the issues with Carlos Jr., as we all know, is whether or not his gas tank holds up. And do I have some feedback? Josh?
Yeah, sorry, man. Here, so hopefully my connection isn't too bad. You were saying about Carlos's gas tank not being very good.
Yeah, see, that's the question mark. If he can get this fight to the ground, I could see him submitting him, and I personally think he finishes this fight. It's got to be in the first or second. And if you guys follow BB Bomb on Twitter, Brett Apley, he was tweeting the other day about a surprise number of people are on Vettori, and he was kind of confused why, and I kind of agree with him. So he might be slightly overlooked in this fight, surprisingly, when he probably is the favorite. I haven't looked at the odds yet, but I just think he has more avenues to win. Vettori's still young, and his path to victory, he wants to wrestle and take it to the ground, but Carlos Jr. is a wizard on the ground. So I'm looking for upside to get me a first-round finish in my GPP. So I'm going to go with Carlos Jr. Let's take a look at the – okay. A little closer than I thought. Carlos Jr. is minus 145, and Vettori is plus 115. Vegas has the over-under at 2.5 rounds. It's minus 105 to go under, minus 125 to go over. So if Carlos Jr. doesn't finish it early, I think they're going to lean with Vettori the longer the fight goes on due to his gas tank. But what's he priced at?
Junior actually and Vettori are both priced at 8,100.
I'm on Junior in this one. You get a discounted price. I hope Brett was right when he thinks that Vettori is getting overlooked, because I see some finish upside with Junior. More of a GPP play for me. Due to the value, I think he could be a good cash play. Vettori as well. It's just whether or not – I don't know if I want to play either of these guys in cash, man, just because it's a coin flip. I could go either way. But for GPP upside, I'm going to be all over Junior, I think. Agree, disagree?
Yeah, I think this is definitely I agree. You want to play Junior more. He's a value there. He's got that like world-class jiu-jitsu. But we just saw Carlos Jr. get knocked out by old man Dan Kelly, which as like the biggest favorite on the card. So I think I agree. Like I don't know that I really want to touch this one in cash. Junior fades late, and if Vettori can survive the first couple rounds, he could pour it on Junior late. So I think this GBP lean toward Carlos Jr.
Took the words right out of my mouth, brother. All right, next fight. This will be easy. Woo! Neil Magny versus Johnny Hendricks. I don't know about you, but did you see that weigh-in? Did you see Hendricks call out the media for trying to make weight?
Yeah, he looked in the interview with Ariel Helwani yesterday. He looked awful. Just listening to him try to talk and stand up, he just looked horrendous. And then he missed weight by 2.5 pounds. So
I might have jumped the fight here, man. I apologize if I skipped yours, but we might as well roll with it.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to be all over Magny in this fight. Hendricks, man, what a fall from grace, this guy. He's really, really struggled. He can't make weight, and cutting weight, that much weight, and not getting there, not only is it a mental hurdle to get over, but draining your body of all that stuff to the extreme and then coming back and trying to fight, it's just bad news. And I've been a big fan of Magny for a while. First off, his gas tank's through the roof, and that's one thing that I look for first. Like, is he going to gas? The answer is no. He uses his length really, really well. Leg kicks, has excellent lateral movement. He's always on his bike to pressure fighters. Really good head movement, has some solid punches or solid combinations on the feet. But I think the thing I like most is his accuracy. He's super high volume striker, striking at range. He's very, very active. In close, he got rocked by Hector Lombard, so that could be a problem if Hendricks gets through. But what happened in Hendricks' last fight? I don't think Johnny Hendricks.
He lost to Kelvin Gastelum at UFC 200.
Is his chin in there anymore? Who did he get?
He didn't get knocked out by Gastelum, which is, after Gastelum knocked out Tim Kennedy, I mean, I guess it might be a little bit too early to say that.
Yeah, I misspoke. We can't question his chin quite yet. But
yeah, I mean, he got knocked out pretty brutally by Stephen Thompson, but
Wonder Boy's fighting for the title for a reason. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
I'm on Magny in this fight. I just think with the weight cut and same thing with your theory with Ronda, he's like calling out the media in his head. Like, is he mentally there? He cut weight, didn't make it. Everything points to Magny in this fight, and I have no reason to think otherwise, especially Magny is, really, really coming into his own as an elite fighter. So looking at the pricing, oh man, Neil Magny's 8,200 and Hendricks is 8,000. I'd like to see the pricing if they like release them after the weigh-in. I wonder how drastically different they'd be.
Yeah.
Magny comes in, according to this, is 135 and Hendricks is plus 125, even after the cut. Damn.
Yeah, I mean that's what I saw today. Surprising.
I believe you.
But I'll take it.
For 8,200, I think Magny's a must play in cash and GPP. I mean, I think cash more importantly, and fading Hendricks, I think I'm going to.
Yeah, I mean, I think his only path to victory here, I think, is trying to win the takedown battle for 3 rounds, and I just don't think that he's going to have the gas tank to do that. And that's not really. I mean, he's been talking about how he wants to get back to his wrestling prior to this fight, but I think he's going to have a hard time closing the distance on Magny and having a hard time taking him down when he looked just horrendous just yesterday. So I don't know that Hendricks will be in really very many of my lineups. I don't know. I think Magny's chin, he got rocked badly against Lombard, but he survived, and I think that kind of shows what kind of chin he has. He ended up getting knocked out by Lorenzo Larkin, but Larkin's got a kind of firepower that Hendricks just doesn't have. So yeah, give me Magny.
Could be the end of Big Rig as we know it. All right, let's jump into, we skipped this one, Mike Pyle versus Alex Garcia.
So this is an interesting fight. Both guys have pretty big holes in their game, I think. Pyle's 41. He's been dropped in a bunch of his recent fights, so his chin is not looking good, and that's bad news against a hitter like Garcia. The problem with Garcia, though, is that he doesn't throw enough volume, and he gasses out really, really quickly. Garcia likes to throw like some power punches and then work takedowns. Once he's on the ground, he doesn't really do much but lay and pray. I mean, his offense there is like really, really limited. So let me see where I ended up going with this fight. I think I ended up taking Garcia just because I just don't trust Pyle's chin. Pyle looked really bad in his last fight against Alberto Mina. He really couldn't get anything going. He got like the few kicks that he threw got caught and he got taken down. And then he got knocked out by a flying knee, which is a little bit fluky, but just kind of shows that his striking defense just isn't awesome. He backs up with his chin up, and he tries to hide his chin behind one of his shoulders while he's dropping his left hand, which, I don't know, just doesn't seem to be working for him. So, but I could definitely see Pyle taking over the fight. Like, if he can survive the first 7 minutes or so, I could definitely see him taking over late. What I think he should do, and I mean, he's a veteran, so maybe he'll have a really smart game plan, but I think he should try to take the wind out of Garcia's sails as quickly as he can and like clinch and wrestle as much as possible to kind of limit Garcia's gas tank and limit his ability to land a big punch. If he can do that, then I think he can win the fight. But what I'm worried about is that he'll be taking punches, even if he like doesn't get knocked out, he'll be taking punches early, will be defending takedowns, might end up on his back, and by the time he starts to make a move in the third round, he might be too far behind on the scorecards at that point. So I don't trust either of these dudes in cash at all. Garcia, even though he should win, he's got the physical tools at this point by a long shot. He's just not consistent, and his gas tank is really bad. So what do we got in terms of pricing?
Pyle comes in at 7,600. Garcia is 8,600. And Pyle is the underdog at 160 with Garcia coming in at minus 170. So from what I gathered, GPPs, maybe small exposure to Pyle and GPP, and Garcia strictly GPP?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to go here. Garcia, he's got, I think, among the best chance to end the fight in the first round, other than like the Thatch Price fight and the main event. Is probably the fight most likely to, or he's got the best chance to win inside the first round, because Pyle's chin is just not good at this point, and he bounced around on his feet a little bit, but he's not very fast on his feet. And I think Garcia can really close the distance and hit him with big punches pretty easily. So, yeah, that's what I like here.
All right, that wraps up the FS1 prelims. Before we jump into the remainder of the card, guys, check us out on Patreon. It's in our bio. It's on the YouTube info. Josh and I set up a Patreon account. We're looking for, if you guys like the show, donate anything you'd like, anything from $1 to $1,000. Anything helps, guys. We're trying to make the show better for you, and make this better and make something out of it. So we really appreciate anything you guys offer. If not, leave us a comment, give us a like, anything to help make the show better. Tweet at us. We love to tweet back and forth. So yeah, if you guys could help us out, that would be awesome. We love doing the show, and we just want to make it better for you guys. All right. The next fight is Louis Smolka versus Ray Borg. Oh, man, Louis Smolka. Talk about letting me down last fight. He broke my heart against Brandon Moreno. I think I had 100% exposure to Smolka, as did the majority of everyone.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting fight. Borg actually missed weight worse than Hendricks did. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how he looks. He ended up, I think he came in at 129.5 or something like that. So as far as I know, the fight is still on, which is good because this card only has 10 fights, which is going to mean a lot of ties already. 9 fights would be pretty terrible. But I ultimately went with Borg, and him missing weight might make me lean a little bit more towards Smolka. But I picked Borg because Smolka's longer and got a reach advantage, but he's not awesome at using it. Like, he'll throw some long kicks. He knocked out somebody, I can't remember his name right now, with like a step-in side kick to the face. So he can throw like flashy karate stuff, but he's no Stephen Thompson in terms of maintaining distance. So what that means is that he's too willing to like wade into the pocket and start like just throwing bungalows, and that's going to be bad news against Borg, who really wants to get a double leg, take the fight to the mat. Smolka's also like pretty content to fight off his back. Sorry, I didn't catch that. What was that?
Never mind. Keep going.
Okay. Yeah. Where was I? Smolka's content to. He's not a great wrestler, but he's willing to kind of take the fight to the mat in any way that he can, even if he ends up on bottom. He just wants to initiate a scramble, initiate the grappling, so he can work his offensive submission game. But that's Borg's like bread and butter. I think Borg's more technical grappler. He's, I think, better, like quicker athlete. He's got insanely fast back takes. So this should be a really like entertaining back and forth grappling match. But I like Borg. I think he's going to be on top more often. I think he's just more technical, better athlete. He'll have to fight off some submissions, but I like Borg to win the decision. So what do we got in terms of pricing and odds?
This is kind of off. Borg comes in at 7,900 and he's -130 favorite. Smolka's 8,300 and he's a 120 dog. So if we like Borg here, this is a great play. Maybe a cash game play, 7,900. And he's a favorite, but he's priced as the dog. That's strange. Yeah.
I'm not sure if the line has been like moving toward him. It should have, within the past few hours, it should have been moving away from him because of him missing weight so badly. But yeah, I like him here for his discount. I think about taking him in cash. What do the finished props look like here? For Smolka, I think, especially with Borg missing weight, that could be an indication that he's injured. And so I think Smolka might warrant a little bit more exposure in GVPs because of that. He has a submission threat. Looks like the over-under is 2.5 rounds, overs at -132. So going the distance seems like the likely outcome. Smolka's inside distance is +325, while Borg's inside distance is +213. So
all right. So we're on Borg here.
I think this is So I think Borg in GBP and possibly in cash, though him missing weight that badly is a little bit concerning. So,
all right. Hey, before we jump into our next fight, I just got a text message. I want to shout out to Jake Anderson, who is tuned into the show. He just texted me and said he pledged money to Patreon for us. So, Jake, shout out to you, buddy. I will see you on New Year's Eve. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to the next fight. Tarek Saffiedine versus Dong.
Hang on real quick. Sorry, while we're doing shout-outs for Patreon patrons, Jared and Kate Shipley also pledged $25 to us on Patreon. So big shout out to them. They get all our rewards. That's like the highest tier of rewards that you can get for us on Patreon. So thank you to them. And we'll be sending you our cash lineup because that's what you get, the highest tier. So thank you. So Tarek Saffiedine and Dong-Hyun Kim. Sorry.
All right. I'm on Dong-Hyun Kim here. This guy's an elite level grappler. In his most recent fight, and actually it was almost like spitting images, his past two fights. This guy has the third most takedowns in welterweight history, 53% ground control time, which is the most in welterweight history, 4th degree black belt in judo, and he's a top of the line grappler. He fought Josh Berkman, and I forget who he fought in his most recent fight. I just watched the film last night. Dominick Waters, yeah. And if this guy gets a hold of you, it's bad news. The guy is like glue. And numerous wins that he has come by submission, and he's just so suffocating in top control. And if he gets the fight to the ground, he's at that level where you don't stand a chance. One of the issues I did notice with him, though, is against higher level strikers, if they pressure him on his feet, he really, really backs down. And defensively, he's not too great on his feet. Defensively, saying that. So you watched a little more film on Saffiedine. From what I recall, he loves the leg kicks and more of a counter striker. He's not one to push the pace and break through the range and pressure his opponents. Is that correct?
Yeah, Saffiedine's kind of an outfighter. He throws pretty good volume. Like you said, lots of kicks, lots of leg kicks. But he doesn't pressure. He's not very aggressive. He just wants to like kind of pick you apart from the outside. He's got really good takedown defense, which I think is going to be like the battle of this fight. He's not very like fleet of foot. He's not very fast on his feet, and so I think that Kim is going to be able to close the distance on him and clinch with him, and that's, as you mentioned, that's Kim's wheelhouse. So I think I'm with you. I think I favor Kim here. I think that he can negate a lot of Saffiedine's offense by like clinching with him a lot. And Saffiedine doesn't really have like one-shot power. Kim used to fight, like there was a stretch there where he was going nuts and fighting super aggressive, just throwing all defense out the window and just throwing bombs. And after getting knocked out by Tyron Woodley, he's sort of scaled that back a little bit, fighting a little bit smarter. So I don't see Saffiedine being able to hit like some giant counter shot. So yeah, I like Kim here, probably by decision because Saffiedine's pretty tough.
All right, Saffiedine comes in at 7,700. Kim is 8,500. Odds: Dong-Hyun Kim's -140 and Saffiedine's 130. Saffiedine GPP guy for me, as Josh and I just talked about. Dong-Hyun Kim is a safe cash play in my opinion, and at that price tag, I think he's a good play. So let's move on to Lineker versus Dillashaw.
Yeah, just real quick, the finish props. Saffiedine inside distance is +550, so he might not even really be worth much of a look at all in GPPs at those odds. Kim's inside distance though is +205, so Kim might be a guy that you could play in either format. I think cash would be pretty good, but also GPPs.
All right, let's jump into Lineker versus Dillashaw.
So this should be an awesome fight. should be pretty much a stand-up affair, I think, for the most part. Dillashaw might be able to use his wrestling a little bit, but Lineker's got pretty strong takedown defense. Lineker has been winning fights just by like having an insane power advantage over pretty much everyone he's fought, and just walking dudes down and just throwing bombs to the body, throwing bombs upstairs, and relying on his just insane chin to just like walk through everything all of his opponents throw back at him. Dillashaw, I think he's gonna have a hard time walking Dillashaw down though. Dillashaw really like showed in his fights with Barao that he kind of like can use movement to run circles around dudes, even guys as good as Barao. So I think that's kind of what he does here. Is Dillashaw does tend to get hit a lot. He's very, very active with his striking, so he tends to eat a good amount in return. And he's not. He's been rocked. He's not afraid to throw down in the pocket, so he does get hit, and that's going to be Lineker's shot here. I think Lineker though is going to have to like rely on a big knockout, because I see Dillashaw being able to use kicks, use movement, use combinations to outpoint Lineker on the feet. Lineker's going to have to rely on like big shots to either swing the momentum in his favor and like steal the round or get a finish. And so I see Dillashaw winning this one by decision, but it should be a really fun fight. In terms of odds and pricing, we got Dillashaw is the second most expensive fighter on the card at 8,800, while Lineker comes back at 7,400. Dillashaw, I think, is the highest favorite or biggest favorite on the card at minus 240. The odds I'm looking at, and Lineker, the comeback on him is at plus 220. One thing I did notice, though, is that Dillashaw, despite being a really big favorite, does not have good finish odds. The over-under here is at 2.5 rounds, and the over is at minus 225. Dillashaw inside distance is plus 334, and Lineker inside distance is plus 432. So this, I'll definitely have some exposure to Lineker and GBPs. I might also have exposure to Lineker in cash, because with Dillashaw not having a great finish prop, the fight likely to go the distance, they're going to be throwing a lot of volume, I think. One thing that can sort of like sometimes tamp down Lineker's volume and output is that his opponent is on his bike the whole time, running away and trying not to engage. And so if he doesn't knock the dude out, sometimes if he can't engage with his opponent, he doesn't have like great stats. But I don't think that's going to be an issue here against Dillashaw. I think they're both going to be throwing a ton. So that gives Lineker a lot of opportunities to end the fight, and it gives him a lot of opportunities to score. And so at 7,400, with a good chance of this fight going the distance, I kind of like Lineker in cash. Dillashaw, I think, will have the higher output. I don't really see him finishing here, despite his superior finish prop to Lineker. Lineker's chin is just ridiculous. So, and Dillashaw has needed to finish late against like many of the guys that he's knocked out lately. So I don't see that happening here. So I'm thinking about actually stacking this one in cash. I don't know. What do you feel? What do you think about that?
I mean, I wouldn't hate it one bit. These guys are going to be busting at each other's heads, and it's favored to go the distance. So high volume from both of these guys. I mean, I think that's a smart play.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll definitely look at it, but I think I might be leaning that way. You don't want to having too many. I don't know. Having the stack is a little bit dangerous, obviously, because you're guaranteeing yourself a loss there. But for a lower price dude, I think Lineker's pretty good, and Dillashaw is the highest favorite. Isn't super expensive despite being the highest favorite, and I think there's going to be like a ton of volume. So I don't know. I'm gonna think about it. But up next, we got Cruz and Garbrandt, another fight that I think you might be able to stack.
Yeah.
What do you?
I think I'm more open to stacking the Lineker fight. Well, this is a 5-round fight, but anyway, if you guys have listened to the show, you guys know I am Team No Love for life. The guy is a freaking beast. Fights out of alpha male, and this is the third alpha male fighter that Cruz will be fighting. So hopefully Garbrandt figures out the enigma that is Dominick Cruz, but I think it's going to be difficult for him. Unfortunately, I am going to go with Cruz in this fight via decision. His style is designed to win decisions. His output, he has a cerebral approach, and his defensive wizardry, man. He is going to use his wild footwork and movement to dance around Cody. He's going to switch stances like he always does, ducks from side to side, comes in at unexpected angles and unexpected times. He's very, very unpredictable, and he wins fights on the scorecard. He's got really good double leg takedowns, but I think that's kind of negated against Cody Garbrandt because he is a good defensive wrestler out of alpha male. So he might actually lean towards that to take him to the ground because he doesn't want to stand in the pocket and bang with Garbrandt because Garbrandt has uber power in his hands. But that being said, Garbrandt's an elite striker. Technically, I wouldn't call him elite, but the guy has crazy power in his hands. He's a really good boxer. Good combos, looks to counter. Sometimes when he's in the pocket, though, he gets a little overconfident and leaves his chin open, and his hands start to drop. So, unfortunately, I am going to be rooting so hard for Garbrandt, but I think the smart money is on Cruz in this fight. I really want him to knock Dominick Cruz out hardcore, especially after all the crap that Cruz talks and all these freaking interviews that he's been having. And did you see the interview yesterday where Garbrandt freaked out, ripped off the mic, and was trying to get into the other room and was like throwing stuff into the door?
Yeah, it looks like Cruz is running space in Garbrandt's head. I mean,
I think Garbrandt is losing the verbal warfare and all that stuff, and it's frustrating on his part. And he might just go out there and just fight dumb. So I think the smart money's on Cruz. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I think Cruz is going to. I think he'll have opportunities to take the fight down because I think his movement. Cody likes to. He's not one to dance in and out. He wants to like edge forward slowly, and then once he gets into range or once he like gets a chance to counter, just like fire off a combination. But he likes his opponent. He likes to plant his feet, and he likes his opponent to be like right there in front of him. Cruz isn't going to do that. So I can definitely see Cody like rushing forward to close the distance, really wanting to knock Cruz out, and that's just going to open him up for reactive takedowns.
Correct.
So I could definitely see Cruz.
I haven't seen much of Garbrandt on his back, so
yeah.
That could be an issue. With that being said, let's go into pricing. Dominick Cruz comes in at 8,700. Garbrandt is 7,700. Cruz is the minus 210 favorite, and Garbrandt is the 190 underdog. I think Cruz this could be a cash game stack as well. If Garbrandt doesn't finish the fight, it's probably going to go the distance, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Josh and I were talking off the air, and we thought Cruz could be a GPP play, but I don't know, man. I'm probably going to pay down for 7,700 for Cody's first round knockout upside if I'm playing either of these guys in GPPs.
I think you should definitely have some exposure to Garbrandt in GPPs, but I think Cruz, even if he wins a decision, with
5 rounds,
takedowns and volume,
he's probably going to hit that 110 mark easily. That's a good point.
Yeah. And speaking of the cash stack, now that I think about it, actually, Lineker is $300 cheaper than Garbrandt, and I think I'd rather play Lineker in cash. I think Garbrandt's going to have a hard time, even in 5 rounds, hitting a lot of volume. He's going to be going for the home run shot, I think, a lot. And I don't think that he's going to have – I think Dillashaw hit Cruz more than Garbrandt will. Dillashaw's got a more varied attack. He's throwing more kicks. That's not really what Garbrandt does. Garbrandt's looking for those hands, and I think he's going to have a hard time finding Cruz. So I think if there's a stack on here, I think it would probably actually be Lineker and Dillashaw rather than Garbrandt.
Okay, so lean Cruz in this fight, GPP exposure for both of these guys. But hey, guys, unfortunately, I'm going to dip out. Josh has to take care of this main event. As always, I'm so sorry. I'm at my girlfriend's house. I haven't seen her. I didn't see her for Christmas. I'm getting a whole bunch of shit.
Fine. Go.
I love you all. Follow us, like us, make you a bunch of money.
All right. So I guess I'll handle the Nunes Rousey fight on my own here, and talk to myself. That's cool. All right. So I've gone back and forth on Rousey and Nunes a bunch. I think they've definitely both got. Let's see if I can get Drew out of here. And eject. Cool. All right. So I've gone back and forth on this fight a good bit. I think obviously both women have a pretty clear path to victory. Nunes wants to keep her on the feet and box up Rousey and use her power punching to finish Rousey, whose striking has never been very good. She really got exposed against Holm, but if you go back and look at her prior film, I mean, it's never really looked good. She's always off. She's off balance. She's either not getting her weight into her shots at all, or she's like just throwing herself off balance by just winging haymakers. She doesn't move her head, and that really got exposed against Holly. Even with like the year off, and I'm sure that she's been working on her striking defense, it didn't really show much improvement in all of the time that she was fighting before losing. So I'm not super confident that it gets that much better. And she's still training with Tarverdian, which gives you no confidence whatsoever that she's really improving very much. So this fight is going to end up being like, everyone's going to be talking about her mental state after this. Like, if she wins, she was being super, not coy, but just like super focused. Media. But if she loses, then it's going to be like, she was just scared and has been kind of a mental wreck since the loss, and that the fact that she just refused to do any kind of pre-fight media just sort of goes to prove that. Undoubtedly, she wants to avoid questions about the loss and where she's been for the past year because they're uncomfortable, and she's just not shown to be like have the cool or the mental fortitude to kind of deal with those kinds of questions. She gets really, really frustrated, and I think that kind of carries over to her fighting style as well. She showed that she was really frustrated against Holly, just kind of rushed forward recklessly. I try not to go off of like the psychological aspect of the fighters too much because it's really hard to predict. Like, are they going to be really amped up fighting their hometown, and that's going to make them like perform really, really well, or are they going to be, is the pressure going to get to them because they're fighting in front of all their family and friends? It's too hard to call something like that. You can call it after the fact and claim that it played some sort of role, but it's really hard to predict that, what kind of effect that has. But this is a case where I think that it sort of looks like Rousey, she could, if she eats a couple hard shots, could end up folding and like really giving up because she didn't give up in the home fight, but she just could not make any kind of adjustments at all. So just not very confident that she is going to perform well here. And so partly because of that, and what is otherwise a close fight, I went with Nunes. So like I said, Nunes is going to want to kind of replicate Holm's game plan, stay on her bike, stay away from the clinch, stay away from the ground game as much as possible. And I think that's going to be like where the fight is won, is like, can Nunes do that? She's not a counter puncher like Holly, really. She's more of an aggressive power puncher. She's definitely more of a finisher than Holly is. Holly's style and game plan were just perfectly suited to dethrone Rousey. Just Rousey rushing forward with her hands down and her chin up, and no defense made her a really inviting target for Holly's counterpunching. But Holly was really, really staying on her bike that fight, really trying to avoid the clinch and close range like the plague. And I don't know if Nunes will do that. I'm a little bit concerned that she might be a little bit too confident in her own clinch game. And that could really be a bad thing because she's a solid clinch fighter, got decent trips and throws, but no one's at Rousey's level there. Nunes was getting thrown around by Katzengano in the second and third round after she dominated the first round. Rousey has had, like, even when she can get the fight to the clinch, she has had trouble with really strong, good athletes and getting the fight to the ground if they're really trying to like negate that and get away from her. She didn't have success throwing Sarah McMahon. She didn't have success throwing Holly, her big, strong athletes. She did have success throwing Miesha Tate, who was a pretty good athlete for the division. But the problem was that Miesha was trying to win the takedown battle inside against Ronda, which you never want to do. She's not trying to get out or prevent throws. She's trying to get her own throws, and that just played right into Rousey's game. So if Nunes finds herself in the clinch, if she can stay disciplined and not try to go for her own trips and just try to get out, kind of like Holly did, she, I think, will be able to do that. Rousey's, like I said, either relied on being the far superior athlete, like against Alexis Davis and Sarah Kaufman, or relied on the other person trying to win a takedown battle inside, like against Miesha and against Kat Zingano. And so if opponents don't do that, she's had to rely on her striking, like against Sarah McMahon, where she used knees inside. She's super awesome in the clinch with striking, as well as with takedowns. So Nunes needs to stay out and hit Rousey as she comes forward, get away from the clinch, hit her as she comes forward. If Rousey kind of stays back because she's tentative, doesn't want to rush forward, I think that actually plays right into Nunes' hands. Rousey is not the kind of person to duck under for reactive shots. Like, she doesn't have low takedowns, singles, doubles. She doesn't do that. She's all about the clinch. She wants the body lock. And so I think Nunes, if Rousey wants to stay away a little bit more, not charge forward, I think Nunes can let her hands go without having to worry about reactive takedowns, because that's not really Rousey's game. So I think fight goes to the mat. That's Rousey's wheelhouse. Even when she's on the bottom, when she has found herself on the bottom against like Miesha Tate, her offensive guard is awesome. Her bread and butter is the armbar, so she's going for that all the time, and that really negated. They put Miesha on defensive even when she was on top. Rousey, when she gets to take on her own, if she finds herself in guard, I think she's shown that she doesn't really. I think she'll be able to pass Nunes' guard, because Nunes on her back just does not look good at all. Another reason why she really wants to avoid being there at all costs. But Rousey, when she's in guard, sometimes tends to just stand up and throw standing ground punches, and then try to throw the legs aside so she can pass guard. Once she's past guard, that's where she starts looking for submissions right away. Super aggressive. So that's going to be her avenue to victory, obviously, but I like Nunes a little bit more. So with that said, Rousey is 8,400 on DraftKings, while Nunes is 8,000. Rousey is the minus 140 favorite, and Nunes is the plus 130 dog. I think this is obviously great fight to target in GBPs. There's going to be a ton of ownership on both sides here, but Rousey, because of her name and because she's the favorite and isn't that expensive, I think is going to be very highly owned, and which will kind of help keep Nunes' ownership levels a little bit lower, which is great, I think. So I think she makes a great one to target, but this fight is almost certainly going to end within the first couple rounds, so you want to target Rousey as well for sure. So I don't know that we'll be, since I lost my partner here, I think we'll just kind of move on from there. We won't do a GBP lineup. I think one thing I'll say about GBPs is that with only 10 fights, you probably want to be leaving some salary on the table to differentiate yourself, hopefully not land into those ties. They're going to be inevitable, though, with only 10 fights. So I think that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed the content, enjoyed the podcast today, please give us a like. That's the thumbs up button down below if you're watching on YouTube. Please give us a positive rating on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts. Positive reviews, all those kinds of things help us out. We'd really appreciate it. As mentioned before, please pledge to support the podcast on Patreon. If you like it, $1 is the minimum, and that we appreciate anything that you're willing to contribute would really help us out. We're in the process of getting better equipment for this, getting better microphones and stuff. So want to make this podcast a better listening experience for you guys, make this a little bit more professional as much as we possibly can. I'm working on, in these we've got these like downtime weeks with no UFC card, I'm looking at like podcast production stuff, trying to make this as good as possible. So like I said, help us out on Patreon or with those positive reviews. You can follow us or tweet at us on Twitter at, you can find me at Stonewall MMA. You can see that right there. Daily Fantasy KO on Twitter, and Drew is Houdini16. So give us a follow, give us a shout out, talk to us on Twitter. We'll hit you back because we really like interacting with our listeners. So thanks, Scott. Thanks a lot for listening, and good luck this weekend. Hope you guys earn a bunch of money. If you do, send us those tweets, those screenshots or whatever. We love to see how we've helped people out. So for Drew, I'm Josh. Peace out.